Hi everybody, I'm Mike Rogers and welcome to another edition of Sportsline right here on News Channel 5 Plus. You might recognize my first guest from her days as Miss Florida back in 2009, or you may recently recognize some of her work fundraising outside of Bridgestone Arena. I will just leave it at that. My guest tonight is Rachael Todd. Rachael, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You're already laughing at the idea of your fundraising outside of Bridgestone Arena. But it was for a good cause.
Yes,
Tell us about it.
Absolutely. I was approached by a couple of girlfriends when I first moved here to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a proud resident of Tennessee now, so
Do you have your driver's license? Because I still don't have my driver's license.
You don't have a Tennessee driver's
license? Not
yet.
I'm going to get there eventually.
I beat you on that.
You did?
I did. I spent about 7 hours at the DMV.
It's a pain in the butt from what I heard. Gosh. 7 hours? Okay, well that's a whole topic for a whole other show.
Okay.
But you're here in Nashville and...
Okay, so they had a meeting at the local YMCA, and I went there thinking I was just hanging out with some girlfriends and supporting them in their efforts for running this marathon, and I walked out as a committed member of Team in Training to run the San Diego Marathon, and we had about 4 months to train and raise $2,900 each, and it's a big commitment. So we started brainstorming ideas, and there were things passed around that past members of this organization have done, such as holding themselves hostage on top of buildings and not getting down until they raised the amount of money that was required, and that was definitely talked about. We were talking about doing it in bikinis. We thought, well, but it was still winter, and that was quickly taken off the drawing board. So the next thing that we saw on the calendar was the Predators hockey playoffs.
Huge event here in Nashville. Bridgestone Arena was just bumping. I mean, it was the place to be, no doubt about it.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
One of the playoff games happened to fall on Cinco de Mayo. So that was our first targeted date, and it was very successful. We made cookies and brownies, and we stood out there on the corner. We planted ourselves right into the biggest spot of the most traffic, and we had on our running gear. And at first we were going to dress up, and then we had the bright idea to just stand out wearing running gear. And I believe you were one of the passers-by, and you definitely were. You noticed us because we were out there screaming at people to donate money. And on a more serious note, that fundraising part of it really brought home what it is that we were doing, because we had, I can't even tell you how many people came up and just held our hands, gave us $20 and said, my sister died from leukemia when I was 5 years old, or my aunt died from leukemia. And I don't think that we didn't know that was going to happen. We just thought we would be selling brownies and cookies and people would give us $1. But it really, that's what got us.
Started to hit home at that point.
And then from that point on, running 16 miles for training became a lot easier, because you'd be running and all you were thinking about were those people.
So you're here in Nashville. You find out at the local YMCA about a program called Team in Training. And Team in Training basically got together to support leukemia and the Lymphoma Society. And you're like, hey, I want to be a part of this. How do I go about raising the $2,900? We actually have some pictures of Rachael out and about in Nashville, particularly. I think it was outside of Rippey's, so that'd be about 5th and Broadway, and that was the day of the big race when you finally got done competing. And the shots outside of Rippey's are pretty interesting because it's kind of the firsthand experience of what.
That was my jersey.
That was the jersey. But yeah, if we can pause that shot. Running for leukemia, so you had a big signing letting everybody know about it. And how much money would you say you raised just on the corner of 5th and Broadway?
Our first night, on the night of Cinco de Mayo, plus the playoffs, we raised about $1,100.
Wow.
So we split that between the two of us. You saw 2 girls in that picture. And then we did it again for the next. We were just kept praying that the Predators were going to keep going in the playoffs so we could keep taking advantage of
That is wild.
I'd like to also mention that we had corporate sponsorships as well, because there was $2,900 times 3 team members. So just standing on the corner didn't raise all the money, but Pinnacle Security Systems was a big corporate sponsor as well.
So the race in San Diego was this summer. So that was a lot of training from the point that you're saying.
February to June, yes.
Wow. How much training was involved with having to run this marathon? How long was this marathon?
26.2 miles. Yeah, a marathon is 26.2 and a half marathon is 13.1.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was the half or the full marathon.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And and you're probably in shape before at other stages of your life, but probably never anything like marathon training.
Never
correct?
anything
Tell us
like
about that.
Well, I have to hand it to Team in Training. They really do put together a great program, and they really make it doable, especially working as an adult. You have your long runs on Saturdays, and it really encourages you to, stay home at night on Friday night and get up early on Saturday. And you'd be running, at first you were running your 8s and then your 10s and your 12, and then you started getting up into like the 16s and the 18s. And I mean, it really, really, it took a lot of willpower, and it took a lot of really, looking inside yourself and reflecting on, okay, why am I doing this? Because when it comes around to mile 17 and you're just training and it's not even the day of the race, all you have to think about is those kids, and just keeps on going.
So there was a lot of motivation there. There was also a lot of personal motivation. In your life, you mentioned before the show that your grandmother died of cancer, and then now currently you have a family member who's also battling lymphoma. So this was a personal movement for you, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say it was a little bit therapeutic in a way. As family members of those who are sick, we feel helpless, like we can't do anything, and realistically, we can't. I mean, I can't take away the cancer that my aunt's dealing with, but I can physically do something by running a marathon to raise money for research, and so that is what I did. The little girl that I met during my year as Miss Florida, the Miss America organization is partnered with the Children's Miracle Network.
There's a picture of Bailey.
That's Bailey. I sent her the medal that I won at the marathon, and her mom sent me that today, actually. It was very timely.
Wow.
They just received the package this morning, and I thought, Bailey earned this medal more than I did, so I sent it to her, and she took it to her summer camp today for show and tell. She is a leukemia survivor. She was 5 years old when she was diagnosed, and she is the reason why Children's Miracle Network exists, because they provide funding to over 170 children's hospitals throughout the entire country. And without those children's hospitals, people like Bailey and little girls like Bailey would not be alive. And the Miss America organization is partnered with Children's Miracle Network, which just brings a whole nother aspect to why I did it.
Overall, what would you say was the most rewarding part of this experience? And it's such a multi-tiered, leveled experience, from the fundraising to the training to the actual race. But overall, what was the most rewarding part for you?
It was the bonding with those people that I trained with. We really got into some deep conversations, because when you're running, people think that you're out of breath the entire time, but you're running at a pace that's conversational. And so a 20-mile run takes you about 3 hours. And that's pretty much like having a road trip, but you're on your feet. And when it starts to get down to the wire and certain people in your training group are falling behind, you have to encourage each other, and you really have just some raw emotions that come out, and you instantly become really close with people.
The bonding through sports, and that's really amazing that you said that. I did a story last night about the Nashville Storm, a minor league football team here in Nashville, and one of the players mentioned it right at the end of the story. It's actually a story that we're going to run later on tonight around 8:45 on Sportsline, but he says, we're never going to play professional sports. All of our dreams are pretty much over at this point, but the friendships that they're still making, being adult football players playing in their late 20s.
Right.
He said that's still the best part of it for me. The connections that you make with other people and the interaction that you get to have. And I think that's a big reason why so many people, I don't want to say take sports for granted, but I feel bad for the ones that don't get more physically fit and physically involved in sports and activities, because they're really missing out on a lot of potential relationships and a lot of potential connections they could have with other people.
Absolutely. There's just something about sweating with people that just brings out the stories, and I mean, you just get right down to business right off the bat. There's no small talk. And I think that's a really great way to form incredible relationships, especially moving to a new city for me.
615-737-7767. If you have a question for Rachael about her fundraising efforts, why are you giggling over there? Did you say something
I didn't know we were going to do calls.
We're going to do calls.
All of a sudden, I feel like I'm on Larry King.
Well, I'm a little bit younger than Larry King.
You are.
But let's go to John in Florida. John, no, that was my Larry King. 615-737-7767. If you have a question for Rachael, maybe you want to get involved in team training, in a future team and training program.
Or pageantry.
Or pageantry. That's a good segue. See, this is a TV pro over here, because that's what our next segment is going to be about, the competition of pageants. That was my Nancy Grace. Is it right? Is it wrong? These girls competing. But we're going to talk about her days as Miss Florida as Sportsline continues right here on News Channel 5 Plus. I do have some experience in the pageant world. A lot of my really close friends in Texas, when Texas is such a huge pageant state.
Oh, Texas is where it is.
Texas is where it is. And the competition of pageants these days, I'm going to say for so many young girls, it's as big, if not bigger, than the obsession that guys have with football. It's right along the same lines. You guys might think I'm crazy out there, but football to men is in some world, it's equal to pageants for women. It is.
Absolutely.
It is intense.
It is intense.
What makes it so intense? What makes it so crazy? Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to put yourself out there to get criticized, to get on the pedestal like that, to be on the stage where they're just analyzing every little detail about you, Rachel?
You know what it is, Mike? It's the challenge to become the most well-rounded individual that you can, and that sounds so cheesy, I know. But from the outside looking in, pageantry is sparkles and how good can you look in a swimsuit and how good can you fib your way through an answer on stage, right? Well, coming from the outside into the pageant world, I found pageantry when I was in college, and I had this horribly negative attitude about it. I thought, you know, I mean, I don't want to prance around on stage. What could that do for me? And I just dove headfirst into pageantry in college, and I started winning scholarship money through the Miss America organization. The Miss America organization is the world's largest provider of scholarship dollars for young women, first of all. And so that alone is an incredible opportunity. It doesn't cost a thing to enter the pageants, and you walk away with money that goes towards your education. So that is a great opportunity for any young woman looking for, even if you don't win, you win money. The interview process that you have to prepare for, I have never been nervous for any type of interview. I didn't prepare for this interview today because
Neither did I. What a coincidence.
What are we doing here? Why do you have a job?
I often ask myself that question. But anyway.
The interview process that you prepare for,
process.
I mean, it causes you to really just reflect on who you are, and it's at such a young age. I mean, a lot of adults really don't come to the realizations that pageant girls have come to until they're in their 50s. And that's, I think, a lot of times why people hit midlife crises, because they haven't reflected along the way. And the things that we have to go through and the questions that we're asked and the things that we ask ourselves and the people that we become and the social issues that we learn about and all the organizations that we work with, it really just gives you such a well-rounded view of life.
So for example, you take a young girl like yourself who had competed in pageants at 22, 23 years old,
right,
and she's been through this process before. Well, guess what? Now she goes on her first job interview at 24, and she's good. She's polished. She's well-rounded. She knows how to carry herself. She's a professional. She's a more mature person now that knows how to carry themselves in a way that they might not have known themselves before.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. I went to many job interviews when I first moved here to Nashville, and I wasn't nervous for a single one of them, and that speaks volumes alone, just not being nervous. You go in there, and the nonverbal communication that you're exuding to that person interviewing you is all, I'm open, I'm here, I'm present, I know exactly who I am, I know what I want, and I know what I'm able to accomplish.
How do you win?
How do you win? The way that I view pageantry.
Because you won Miss Florida back in 2009.
Right.
You were 22 years old at the time?
21 years old. 22.
So if someone...
Time goes by so quickly.
If somebody was to say, how did you get that done? I mean, Florida's a big state, too. Florida's right up there with Texas, California. I mean, a lot of talented girls.
Absolutely.
And it's not just pretty girls. It's not just a beauty pageant.
No.
But how did you win Miss Florida? Specifically, as far as the competing
I became Miss Florida. This is going to sound crazy. I became Miss Florida in my head before I got to Miss Florida. I started speaking on behalf of the organizations that represented my social issue, which was preventing hunger and homelessness. And I began well-versing myself in all of the statistics and the way that I felt about the issue and how I thought that I could make a change as Miss Florida. I didn't say, oh, I think I'm going to be able to make world peace as Miss Florida. No, I was realistic about it, and I viewed it as a job. And I understood that the job of Miss Florida was a full-time job, and that I was going to have to create my own appearances, and that I was going to have to approach organizations and say, let's partner, let's think of a way that we can work together. How can you use my title to better your organization? And that is how I approached the pageant of Miss Florida. It's not about on stage. It's not about how well can she walk across the stage, how well can she stand there in front of all of us in her bikini. Yes, that's part of it, but it's about what are you going to do when you are given that job, and why are you the perfect person for that job. You have to look good doing it. You have to be able to present yourself in a very professional manner. And as far as, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but the swimsuit issue as to why is that still a part of pageantry, I believe it represents somebody that's well-rounded. Again, they have to have a positive mindset on life. They have to be physically motivated, mentally motivated, and very organized. Time management is such a big part of it. And maintaining a healthy lifestyle and being an example for others is so important. And how could you have somebody represent your state or your country who doesn't exude all of that on a daily basis?
The swimsuit competition, which still exists, they've gotten rid of the talent portion in the Miss USA. Impressed by that?
I am impressed by that knowledge.
But as Donald Trump's Miss USA has kind of taken over the spotlight from what Miss America really ruled for decades.
Right.
Miss America was the dominant force every fall, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
September.
When you're talking to a kid that grew up in Philadelphia, where my relatives would go drive down to Atlantic City, New Jersey,
convention hall.
in the convention hall. It was the thing to do. It was the event. The
Show Us Your Shoes parade. It's been around since 1921, the Miss America organization, and it has lasted. They celebrated their 90th anniversary last year. And while the glitz and the glamour and all of the
pageantry,
sexiness is over there at the Miss Universe organization.
That's Donald Trump's, correct?
Right.
Okay.
They don't have the talent portion.
How did Trump and Miss USA come in, for those who haven't followed it, but how did they, I don't want to say beat Miss America, but how have they taken the
Miss America is still on ABC.
Still on
network
ABC.
television.
Very good. I mean, I'm sure it's holding its own, but they did have some financial problems over the years. And their dates are no longer, I think now they're competing in January.
As is.
Oh, are we still on the air? A little bit of bad weather out there. Sorry for the technical difficulties. But we're talking about how Miss America versus Miss USA. How did Miss USA leapfrog, I think, in the national perspective from Miss America?
I think that's an outside opinion as far as that they have overtaken. Those who are Miss America diehard fans are still out there, and they are very well respected, the Miss America organization. It's just that they have maintained who they are throughout this entire 90 years. They haven't changed, and in a lot of ways that's a great thing, and in a lot of ways people argue that that's not the best move. A lot of times it's been argued that they're not as modern as the Miss Universe, Miss USA organization. I have to argue with that because I believe that the girls who are competing in the Miss America organization are just as modern as the girls competing in the Miss Universe organization. We're exposed to the same, those girls are exposed to the same social issues. They're living in the same era. They're living in the same technologically advanced world. Miss America has a Twitter. Miss USA has a Twitter. They're right there with them. I think that maybe perhaps our society likes to look at the Miss USA pageant in that way. I don't have an answer for that
Or maybe
question.
it could just be Donald Trump and a promotion
His
and a marketing.
ability to do that,
to market
absolutely. I mean, the funding
has
behind Miss Universe organization is definitely probably greater than the Miss America organization.
Let's squeeze in a call before we take
Oh, we
another
have
break.
a call.
615-737-7767. I'll do it like Larry King. David in Nashville, you have a question for Rachael Todd.
Hey, Mike, how you doing this evening?
Doing good. How'd you like my Larry King impersonation, David?
Hey, man, that was great.
Thank you. What's your question?
I wanted to thank Rachel for what she does for the kids and everything, because I grew up in Florida, too. And there's no other place in this world to grow up better in as in Florida. And I grew up right outside of Fort Lauderdale on Pompano Beach. And Rachel, I just wanted to thank you for what you do for the kids, and you have a great night. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for calling in, David. We will get into what brought you here to Nashville and what you do to stay in shape as we continue to talk about health, fitness, competing, and all the fine work that Rachel has done.
The Super Bowl of pageants.
The Super Bowl of pageants, indeed. 615-737-7767 if you have any questions. Sportsline continues on this Monday night. Hope you guys are out there staying dry with some bad weather Even inside the studio, we're feeling it. But Sportsline continues right here on the Plus in Nashville. I mean, we have the Sounds. I had guests on from the Sounds. We had the Nashville Storm. I had guests on from the Nashville Storm. There's no football going on right now with the Titans because of the lockout. And the Nashville Predators were great. We talked a lot about the Preds.
So dare I say that you just basically told us the reason why there's a pageant girl sitting on your show, because there's not a lot of sports going on.
It was the reason for my Summer of Fitness theme.
Right, absolutely.
And, you know, Oprah always does these theme stretches where she like says, oh, I'm going to do a theme on religion or politics.
It's like a series.
This was like a series for me.
Okay.
And I took it very seriously, Rachel, because I feel like we should be more active in working out and health and fitness and just overall the sports experience. We had one of my guests this summer during one of my theme shows was a man who's fighting obesity. He's an obesity activist. And he went from, I believe, 289 pounds down to 170 pounds.
Wow.
And, you know, so it was fascinating.
Was that 119 pounds he lost?
Fascinating hearing his story.
Wow.
And so all of my shows this summer have been to help promote health and fitness, get you guys out there, really just anything, help promote the comprehension of sports and a healthy living. I know this is the extreme example, having a former Miss Florida on the show, but I think from one end of the spectrum, having a guy that used to weigh 289 pounds tell his story about health and fitness is just as interesting as somebody who competes and looks are important to you, and it's still a big part of your job. But I'll ask you similar questions that I asked him.
Okay.
Why do you stay fit? Why is it important to you to live a healthy life, to exercise, to work out?
I look really far into the future. I see that some of my grandparents have struggled with heart disease and have struggled with diabetes, and I just don't want that for myself. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. I think that it's very important from a mental standpoint to have a way to get rid of that stress that we all carry. I mean, so many of us carry it in our shoulders and in our arms and in our back and our lower back, and we feel that pain on a daily basis, and those frustrations and that stress from our daily life is transferred into our bodies. And if we don't take care of ourselves, that's just going to make everything else that you're dealing with that much worse and that much heavier.
The average person probably doesn't work out as much as you or I do.
Right.
I mean, basically, you know, we might be to the extreme.
Yes.
But if you don't mind sharing, what is your weekly workout routine, workout schedule like, if you don't mind giving people an idea of how hard you do have to work to stay in the shape that you're in?
Well, after training for the marathon, I ran that on June 5th. I have not run over 5 miles since that day.
Wow.
So I hit that 26.2 miles, and I haven't really exceeded 5 miles on a run. I'm currently helping a couple of my girlfriends train for the women's half marathon in September, and I highly encourage any women who are looking to get involved in that to sign up. As soon as it's sitting there on your calendar and staring at you in the face, you're going to get out there and train for it. And whether you have to walk, run it, or you run the entire thing, or you walk the entire thing, it's still going to benefit you. I train those girls about 2 days a week, so I'm running 3 or 4 miles a day.
Every day?
2 days a week.
2 days a week, okay.
I love yoga. Absolutely think that that is one of the greatest things that somebody can do for themselves. Whether you're looking to lose 100 pounds or you just want to stay in shape, yoga is amazing. It's amazing for stress relief. It's amazing for stretching out those muscles, and I think it really does tone you. And so if somebody is really looking for something that's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone at the end of the day, to de-stress and to exercise, yoga is the way to go. So I do yoga about 3 times per week. And other than that, I walk on the treadmill, believe it or not. And I never used to think that that would work. But if you set the treadmill up to about 15% incline, which it feels like you're walking up a mountain, and you put the speed only on 3.5, which is pretty slow. Anybody can walk at 3.5. But at 15% incline for 15 minutes, you'll burn more calories than somebody running next to you for about 3 miles.
Good little tip.
Yeah,
Good
so I do that a lot. If you see me holding on for dear life at the gym on the treadmill, that's what I'm doing.
We have some photos of the swimsuit competition, and I purposely shared them for people to say, because everybody's going to look at that and say, how do you look like that? I mean, how do you get those abs to to look like that. But hey, that was the secret to your success. And a lot of that, and I think a lot of those pictures are a little bit deceiving. I mean, because that's right before a pageant, or it's right before a photo shoot.
Right.
And is in a way,
and I don't want to promote being unhealthy at all, and I was never at any time unhealthy about the way that I was doing that. What that is, and any pageant girl will tell you, that's pageant weight. So you are on such a strict diet about a month away from your big day, and you literally are not eating any sugar, you're not consuming any alcohol at all. I mean, there are so many things that you literally just cut completely out.
Absolutely.
And I don't expect that, and I don't think any realistic person expects that on a daily basis, but that's not being unhealthy. I was eating about 1,700 calories a day because I was burning so much, and so I'm still eating as much. I'm still, getting all of the nutrients that are needed. I was just doing it very strategically. I had a very good nutritionist who was telling me exactly, 3 days out you're eating all fruits this day, and 2 days out and 1 day out. So it's very scientific.
And that's why those pictures, and in those
yes.
are the types of pictures that discourage people from exercising.
And to be quite honest with you,
out.
Mike, when they talked about me on national television at Miss America, they said that I was too muscular, and they said that hurt me, and that I actually looked like I had body armor on, and I had worked so very hard to look like that, and it really did. It hurt me. I was like, wow, I guess that's really not what they were looking for, though. That's not what they wanted. They wanted that woman figure. They wanted that realistic womanly figure that's in shape and looks like she maintains a healthy lifestyle, but wasn't to the extreme. And it's not that I was being unhealthy, but they did say that I was a little too muscular. So if that makes anybody feel any better.
And it should, and that's part of this conversation, is the fact that you see the magazine covers, you see pictures like that, but as Rachel just explained, that was a full-time job, 24/7, to get your abs that ripped, and it's not about that.
No.
And if you're discouraged saying, I'm never going to look like that, well, you're really not supposed to.
No.
And it takes such an effort and a team of people to get to that point. But we're just trying to promote somebody to like you're saying, heart disease, obesity, just staying active, making the relationships through sports, sharing memories and sharing a bond through physical activity. That was really part of the biggest reason why I wanted to talk so much about sports and fitness this summer. But I think just overall, do you feel like you'll ever walk away from fitness? Because there's some days I think everybody's in the gym and they just hit that wall and they say, why am I doing this? Why am I still doing this?
Right.
Do you have those days too?
Absolutely. I mean, there's times I walk into the gym at 5:30 after working, and you see everybody lined up on those treadmills, and you just think to yourself, this is just some kind of strange factory.
Yes.
Like, why has it come to this, where we used to be out plowing our fields and picking up heavy bales of hay, and that was our gym. And now we've created these facilities that we have to go to and put ourselves through this hour of torture. And absolutely, there are those days when I get to the gym and I'm like, I really don't want to be here at all, and I don't feel like doing this. But I push myself because I know that in the long run it's going to benefit me.
Are you a narcissist?
No.
Do you think people at the gym are narcissistic?
No.
Because I actually have a theory. I think half the gym is narcissist. And then I think the other half of the gym is people that just love sports, and they love that feeling of being physically fit. I kind of fall in the middle. I'm half narcissist, half love sports, being physically fit.
I can see your point, and I see the way that your theory could hold water. However, those guys that are over there in that free weight section just staring at themselves in the mirror, I also think they enjoy working out, and I think they enjoy feeling the way that they do. The persona that they take on and the strutting around the gym sometimes could give you a different impression, but I truly do think that they just want to stay in shape.
Do you want to stick around and watch some golf tips in Nashville Storm?
I like golfing when I can actually be outside on the golf cart.
615-737-7767. We do have golf tips coming up. We're going to play that next as Sportsline continues right here on News Channel 5+. America Organization. Now, does that mean, and I'm just going to throw it out there, does that mean that you can compete still in the Miss USA?
It does.
And does that mean that you would ever have an interest in competing in the Miss USA?
Yes.
Possibly one day.
Yes.
I feel like it's like when somebody asks.
Well, not just one day. I mean, you are limited on time.
What's the time?
Compete until you're 26 in the Universal Organization. So you only get a certain amount of years of eligibility.
So this is like when Larry King asked Sarah Palin if she's running for president. It's just as, are you going to run? Are you going to compete in Miss USA one day?
I already answered that.
She's good, like a politician. But you can't say when.
I can't say when.
Or definitely, if you'll do it or not.
I love competing.
She's good. 615-737-7767. Before we get into my Nashville Storm piece, we're going to say goodbye to Rachael, and we will definitely continue to follow all of your work here in Nashville. How do you like living in Nashville, by the way?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the energy of this city, and I think that this city just attracts people who are so goal-oriented, and it's just incredible to meet such like-minded individuals.
With a lot of common goals and common interest, and it was great to meet somebody who did really tremendous work for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society this year. Hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
I think everybody's just so very proud of all your work with that. And thanks so much for coming on.
I like to stay active.
Yeah. Rachael Todd, everyone. Speaking of guys that are still loving the fact that they can play sports, I got to hang out with the Nashville Storm last week in the 90